Returning to one of our top stories, and US President Donald Trump has come out saying that he will halt trade talks with Canada effective immediately. That's after what he described as a blatant attack on the US. Well, joining us live is Seattle University Associate Professor of American Politics, Dr. Patrick Schoettmer. Thank you so much, as always, for joining us. So what are your thoughts? Because he said that he would announce new tariffs on goods crossing the border within the next week as well. So plenty of movement in this space.
I think what we're seeing here is Trump's strong alliance with the Silicon Valley and the tech industry titans that really helped put him into the White House. The triggering event for these for the collapse of the tariff talks seemed to be the internet provider tax that Canada passed last year, and that is coming into effect here in the next few weeks. It's a 3% surcharge on internet transactions and internet activity. And that's not something that providers like Amazon or allies like Bezos want to be paying. So the fact that he's willing to hit other industries in order to protect them, I think really shows the strength of that alliance here in the US.
And what are we hearing from those big tech companies?
The tech companies, for the most part, have not weighed in on this in particular, but they have been critical of the Canadian move overall, suggesting that it'll stifle innovation and hamper their investments in Canada. We've seen a lot of movement north, as in places like Vancouver, in particular in Toronto, where there's a large population of tech-savvy workers that can get paid at a rate somewhat lower than what we pay here in the U.S.
We just heard our colleague Mark Stone reporting on the potential for Donald Trump to have free rein, with the Supreme Court and blocking legislation. What are your thoughts on this?
I think the Supreme Court's ruling it's a little complicated. In one sense, one can definitely see a justification for what the court is ruling. The use of nationwide injunctions is something that has only in the past 20 years become a somewhat frequent tool of government. And what the Supreme Court's decision does is significantly limit the ability of judges, especially lower court judges, to issue nationwide injunctions. It doesn't entirely end the ability, but what they argue is that the judges need to limit the relief they provide to make sure that the plaintiffs themselves are fully ameliorated from any sort of harms, but not to extend it beyond that. And as a secondary thing, we see them suggesting that perhaps a better vehicle for these sorts of moves would be class action lawsuits rather than single judge nationwide injunctions.
All right, and switching topics, we are hearing that there have been some secret talks the day before the Iranian nuclear sites, which was just over a week ago now, between the US and Iran. What do you know about these potential secret talks?
The secret talks seem to be extensions of the 5 previous rounds of the talks. They were related to establishing a civilian nuclear program in Iran. The talks seem to be along the lines of trying to convince Iran to accept funding and resources, probably from other Gulf states, because the Trump administration is reluctant to have the U.S. foot that bill, to rebuild the nuclear program that's been in Iran in exchange for accepting not having enrichment capacity and importing the uranium that would be used for those reactors rather than have it developed internally.
And are you concerned of any potential escalation at all?
Well, there's always a risk of escalation, but I think Iran has signaled pretty clearly that they don't want to fight right now. And the Trump administration, for their part, feels like their move, their strike might actually strengthen their negotiating position and make it more likely that Iran will go along with the deal. But I think we can see from the Friday sermons that came out of Iran that Iranians at this point might not be in a mood to negotiate with the U.S., so that might put any negotiations that we're moving forward on pause for a while.
All right, Dr. Patrick Schoettmer, thank you as always.